Ladies and gentlemen, the wait is over.
And here is Gervonta "Tank" Davis.
High ring IQ, has been in the gym since he was a child. And yes, known for his explosive power and knockouts, but
highly anticipated matchups in recent years. And it's only appropriate.
The Jake Paul versus Gervonta "Tank" Davis 2025 was a spectacle that'll be talked about for years. From the opening bell to the jaw-shattering victory of Gervonta, every second felt like chaos bottled inside a ring. It was a war between fame and fury, and by the end, only one man was left standing. The world of boxing had never witnessed a storm like this. When Netflix announced its first ever global live boxing event, it didn't just break the internet, it shattered the line between sport and spectacle. This wasn't pay-per-view, this wasn't old-school broadcasting. This was entertainment colliding with blood and bone, and right at the epicenter stood Jake Paul, the internet's villain-turned-warrior, ready to step into the fire against one of the most dangerous men alive, Gervonta "Tank" Davis. After that hellish showdown with Mike Tyson, most people thought Jake's story was finished. Tyson didn't just beat him, he baptized him in pain. The thud of that 6th-round punch still echoes through highlight reels and nightmares alike. Commentators called it the end of the Jake Paul experiment. Fans wrote obituaries for his boxing career. But when the dust settled, Jake did what Jake always does. He rewrote the script. He didn't crawl away. He rose up from the wreckage with a vengeance. He wasn't chasing fame anymore. He was chasing immortality. And that's when he did the unthinkable. He called out Tank Davis, a man who doesn't fight opponents. He erases them. The buildup was madness. Miami's Kaseya Center turned into something out of a fever dream. Cameras flashing, celebrities swarming, tension humming through the air like static. From Drake to LeBron, from old-school boxing icons to Gen Z influencers, everyone came to see the impossible. Jake, taller, broader, carrying that cocky half-smile like armor, looked like he believed his own myth. Across from him, Tank was a different creature altogether. Compact, coiled, and radiating quiet menace. One looked like a showman, the other looked like a storm. Public opinion tore itself in half. Half the world laughed, saying Jake was delusional, a stuntman lost in a sport built for killers. The other half? They couldn't look away. They called him a lunatic genius, a man willing to walk through fire just to prove he's real. Every podcast, every TikTok, every headline echoed the same question. Can Jake Paul survive Gervonta Davis? But to understand this collision, you have to rewind. When Jake stepped into the ring with Iron Mike in 2024, it wasn't a fight, it was a sacrifice. Tyson was 58, but moved like a tank fueled by rage. Jake came in swinging, fearless, even daring to stand toe-to-toe for 5 full rounds. Then round 6 came, and Tyson's right hand reminded the world why legends don't fade. They detonate. Jake hit the canvas like gravity had doubled, and everyone thought that was the final chapter. But here's the twist. That loss didn't destroy him. It forged him. He came out of it harder, sharper, obsessed. Within months, he was back in the gym, drilling until dawn, chasing redemption like oxygen. He beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., silencing doubters and earning the respect of old-school pros. Tyson hadn't broken him. Tyson had tempered him. That loss became his baptism of legitimacy. And that's when he aimed higher. Straight at Tank Davis. Tank wasn't just another fighter. He was the boogeyman of boxing. 30 wins, 28 knockouts, 1 draw, 0 losses. A 93% knockout rate. His punches didn't just land, they erased timelines. Critics said he didn't just win fights, he ended careers. He walked into 2025 with fire in his chest and something to prove after his draw with Lamont Roach. He wanted to remind the world, boxing still belongs to the killers. When reporters asked if Jake's 7-inch reach would be a problem, Tank just laughed. Height don't matter when you can't see my left coming. That one line broke the internet. Most analysts called it a mismatch. But those inside boxing knew the danger of underestimating a man like Jake, a man too stubborn to quit, too reckless to fear. Tank's own trainer said it best. You don't underestimate a man who doesn't know how to die. Fight week arrived, and the chaos went nuclear. The press tours were wild. Trash talk flew like bullets. Jake barked, "I took Iron Mike's best shots. Tank won't scare me." Tank barely blinked. "Tyson's 58, he said. "I'm in my prime. You'll feel the difference." That line became a meme, a headline, a prophecy. Netflix went full Hollywood. Trailers dropped like movie teasers. Every clip, Jake shadowboxing under a single spotlight, Tank's gloves cracking pads in slow motion, built tension like a ticking bomb. Behind the cameras, both fighters were living in hell. Jake's camp was all about survival, endurance, defense, breathing through punishment. Tank's camp was surgical. Counterpunch drills, timing traps, studying Jake's habits frame by frame. He knew Jake dropped his right hand after every jab, and he planned to punish that mistake until it stopped moving. Miami turned electric. The city pulsed with adrenaline. Yachts lined the bay, influencers live-streamed every second, and fight fans from every corner of the planet swarmed the streets. The Kaseya Center became a cathedral of chaos. Even the weigh-in felt like war. Jake stepped up first, eyes locked, trying to loom over Tank. Tank didn't move. He just whispered something, too low for the mic to catch, and Jake's grin faltered for a fraction of a second. That tiny crack was all the internet needed. Fight night came, and it was biblical. The arena went black. Jake walked in draped in white and gold like a man walking into his own legend. The crowd roared, half cheers, half jeers, all thunder. Then the lights died again. A low bass rumbled through the building, and when Tank Davis emerged, hood up, eyes cold, it felt like death itself had entered the room. Both men met in the center of the ring, and for a second, time froze. The crowd fell silent. Commentators whispered, "This could be redemption or execution." The bell rang, and the world exhaled. Round one, Jake came out smart, jabbing sharp, moving light, controlling distance. Every jab was a message, "I belong here." He even tagged Tank a few times, drawing roars from the crowd. But Tank didn't react, didn't blink, just smiled. That slow, terrifying smile that says you're writing your own obituary. By round two, the tone shifted. Tank started cutting off the ring, shrinking Jake's oxygen. He stalked like a predator, his eyes never leaving Jake's chest. Then bang, a liver shot that echoed. The crowd groaned, Jake's face twisted. You could see the pain take root. By round three, Jake was breathing heavy, his arms slower, his jabs less crisp. Tank's combos got meaner. Left hook, right uppercut, left to the ribs, thud, crack, thud. Jake stumbled and the audience gasped. He was surviving, but barely. Round four came and Jake refused to die. He landed a massive overhand right. Tank flinched for the first time. The crowd lost its mind. Phones up, people screaming, "He's got him!" But Tank didn't fall. He just nodded, smiled, and walked forward through the punch. That was the moment everyone felt it, the tide turning, the nightmare beginning. By round five, Jake was hanging on by willpower alone, clinching, holding, fighting ghosts. Tank was dissecting him piece by piece, surgical, merciless, inevitable. Every body shot was a countdown, every punch a warning. And as the round ended, one thought echoed through the arena, chilling every spine. Round six is coming, and when it does, somebody's going to sleep. When the bell rings again, both fighters stare each other down. Sweat dripping, chest heaving, but neither looks away. The audience is standing now. The commentators go quiet for a second. It feels like something historic is about to happen. And then, it does. Jake comes out trying to keep it together, still jabbing, still moving, but his feet are slower now. His hands drop just a little lower between exchanges. Tank sees it. You can almost sense it. That predator instinct kicking in. He's not rushing, he's waiting. A minute in, it happens. Jake throws a lazy right hand, leaves his guard down for half a second, and that's all Tank needs. Boom! A counter left from Tank explodes like a flashbang. It's clean. It's perfect. You can hear the punch even over the crowd. Jake's head snaps sideways, and before anyone can even process it, he's already falling. For a split second, the arena goes completely silent. Then chaos. Absolute chaos. The crowd erupts. Commentators are shouting. People are standing on chairs. Jake's down, flat on his back, eyes blinking but not really there. The referee starts the count. 1, 2, 3. Jake tries to move, tries to push himself up, but his body doesn't respond. He gets to his knees, wobbling, reaching, then collapses again. It's done. The ref waves it off. Gervonta Tank Davis just knocked out Jake Paul cold in the 6th round. The sound that follows is unreal. Cheers, gasps, disbelief. The Kaseya Center shakes like an earthquake just hit it. Phones light up the arena, recording every second of Jake lying on the canvas and Tank raising his gloves. Tank doesn't scream, doesn't dance, doesn't taunt. He just lifts his hands, expression stone cold like a man who already knew this was coming. Another one added to the highlight reel, another knockout for the books. The camera cuts to Jake's corner, his team rushing in, waving for the medics. Jake's conscious now, sitting up, blinking hard, trying to understand what just happened. Across the ring, Tank's team is celebrating, wrapping him in flags, the crowd chanting his name. The replay hits the big screen. That single left hand over and over, each angle worse than the last. It wasn't luck. It was precision. Inside the ring, it's pure emotion. Jake, sitting there, finally on his feet with help, nods toward Tank. There's no trash talk left, no excuses, just mutual respect. Tank walks over, gives him a quick nod back, then raises his arm one last time. The crowd roars, the cameras flash, and just like that, another unforgettable chapter in boxing history is written. Tank Davis proved once again why his nickname isn't just for show. And Jake Paul? He proved something too, that no matter how many times he falls, he keeps showing up. But on that night, in that ring, there was no question who ruled. It was Tank's world, and everyone else was just living in it. The moment the referee waved it off, the Kaseya Center went from chaos to complete insanity. You couldn't even hear yourself think. Lights flashing, people crying, phones in the air, and that strange mix of gasps and cheers that only happens when the world realizes it just witnessed history. It was madness. Within seconds, half the crowd was screaming for Tank, the other half shouting Jake's name in disbelief. You could feel the floor vibrating. That's how loud it got. Drake posted within 5 minutes, "Never bet against violence." It got 5 million likes before midnight. Snoop Dogg chimed in, "Tank just sent that boy back to YouTube." Shaq, never one to miss a moment, dropped a simple, "Still got that dog." And that was it. The internet crowned its new meme king. Meanwhile, inside the ring, it wasn't as funny. Jake was conscious, but clearly shaken. His team rushed in, lifting him to his stool, giving him water, patting him down, trying to help him focus. The medics checked him while cameras zoomed in from every angle. You could see the disbelief in his eyes, the kind of look that says, "What just hit me?" His brother Logan was there ringside, visibly emotional. He leaned in, whispering something that later went viral when lip readers caught it. "You made history, bro." And that debate didn't fade overnight. It exploded. Podcasts, sports panels, late-night shows, everyone had an opinion. Some called Jake Paul a modern-day Icarus, the guy who flew too close to the sun and got burned on live television. Others compared him to Rocky Balboa, the underdog who didn't win but changed the game just by showing up. Either way, you couldn't escape his name. By sunrise, hashtags like #JakePaulKO, #TankTime, and #Legacy or Lunacy were trending worldwide. TikTok edits turned the knockout into slow-motion art with dramatic orchestral music playing behind Jake's fall. Twitter was split right down the middle, half roasting him, half defending him. "You can laugh all you want," one viral tweet read, "but at least he had the guts to fight the monsters you only meme about." Even veteran fighters weighed in. Mike Tyson, who'd shared the ring with Jake just months earlier, posted one simple line on X: "Respect is earned in pain." That single sentence said more than any post-fight analysis. It told the world that the boxing legends, the ones Jake once idolized, saw something real in him. Meanwhile, Tank Davis was everywhere. News interviews, highlight reels, sponsorship deals pouring in faster than anyone could count. Sports Illustrated ran a cover story titled "The Tiny Titan: How Tank Davis Redefined Power." The world couldn't get enough of him. He wasn't just a boxer anymore. He was a brand, a global icon of speed, precision, and raw intimidation. But even Tank, in his post-fight press conference, gave Jake his flowers. "He showed up," Tank said, shrugging with a grin. "You can't clown a man who walks into that ring." Most talk, he fought. That line went viral too. And suddenly, the story shifted. Jake wasn't just a punchline, he was a participant in history. Within a week, Netflix released behind-the-scenes footage titled After the Bell, The Untold Story of Jake vs. Tank. It broke streaming records again. The footage showed Jake in the locker room, bleeding but smiling, surrounded by his team. He looked at the camera and said, almost whispering, "You don't grow from comfort, you grow from getting hit." And that's when people started to see what this really was. Not just a fight, but a transformation. Sports psychologists started analyzing his mindset. Marketing experts dissected how Jake turned every loss into a brand moment. YouTubers made hour-long breakdowns titled, "The Genius of Jake Paul's Failure." The man turned defeat into content, and content into legacy, but not everyone bought it. Critics argued he was still a showman, still cashing checks off chaos. "He's not a boxer," one commentator snapped during a panel. "He's a businessman who boxes." And maybe that was true, but if business and boxing intersected anywhere, it was right here in Miami. Still, there was something undeniably different this time. Jake wasn't talking trash online, he wasn't trolling. For once, he was silent, recovering, reflecting, and that silence said more than any quote could. It was the calm after the storm, the kind that hinted at something brewing. Meanwhile, Tank Davis's camp started teasing his next move. Rumors of a unification bout, possibly even a crossover fight in Saudi Arabia. Every time his name was mentioned, so was Jake's. They had become intertwined, two opposite forces feeding off each other's fame. And through it all, fans kept asking the same question. Was Jake crazy, or was he courageous? Maybe both. Because boxing has always lived in that space, where logic ends and heart takes over. The world saw a man fall, sure, but they also saw him try. And in a sport built on pride, ego, and punishment, sometimes trying, truly trying, means more than winning. By the time the dust settled, the narrative was no longer about the knockout. It was about endurance, about the willingness to chase greatness even when the odds laugh in your face. Legacy or lunacy, the line between them had never looked thinner. And honestly, both sides had a point. Jake's loss didn't erase his impact. If anything, it amplified it. Because love him or hate him, Jake Paul wasn't supposed to be here at all. He was supposed to be another loudmouth YouTuber throwing staged punches for clicks. But he broke through. He made boxing mainstream again for a generation that thought the sport died with Mayweather's retirement. He got teenagers talking about jabs and footwork instead of Fortnite. He brought boxing back to dinner tables, to TikTok feeds, to late-night debates. And that's what fueled the divide. Was he a real fighter, or just a brilliant disruptor who sold chaos as courage? Meanwhile, Tank Davis walked out of that Miami arena like a myth solidified. His knockout ratio sat at a ridiculous 93%, 31 fights, 30 wins, and yet another soul added to his highlight reel. He didn't just win, he confirmed what boxing fans already whispered. Tank isn't just a fighter, he's a natural disaster in gloves, the kind of athlete that doesn't just defeat opponents, he erases their confidence. Every outlet crowned him the giant killer, a 5'5" monster dropping men who had every physical advantage. But it wasn't the size difference that made it legendary, it was how he did it. Efficient, precise, ruthless. Every punch had intent, every movement calculated. No wasted energy, no mercy. It was poetry written in destruction. Even analysts compared him to a mix of Tyson's fury and Mayweather's IQ. Power and precision. A deadly cocktail that turned him from a star into a symbol. He became that rare type of fighter who transcends the ring. The kind of name your grandkids will still hear in barbershop debates about greatest pound for pound. And while Tank was basking in his glory, Netflix was laughing all the way to the bank. Within 24 hours, they dropped the numbers. Record-breaking viewership. Over 120 million live viewers across platforms. Let that sink in. A streaming service that built its empire on binge-watching crime docs just pulled off the biggest live sporting event of the decade. Netflix didn't just enter the fight game, they rewrote it. They merged Hollywood storytelling, influencer culture, and pure athletic violence into one global spectacle. The result? History. social media went nuclear. TikTok edits with dramatic music, reaction compilations, memes of Jake's knockout freeze-framed with captions like, "When you realize Tank's left hand exists." Even people who couldn't tell a hook from an uppercut were quoting boxing stats like analysts. And then, Jake's post-fight interview. Bruised face, swollen eye, gloves off, pride dented, but heart still burning. The arena had quieted by then. Just him, a microphone, and 20,000 people who didn't know whether to clap or cry. He took a deep breath, smiled through the pain, and said, "I'll be back. I always get up." The words echoed through the arena, short, honest, human. No theatrics, no camera tricks, just the raw voice of a man who'd been through hell and still refused to stay down. That one line hit harder than any punch thrown that night, because for the first time, everyone, from his loudest haters to his most loyal fans, saw past the image. They saw the fighter, not the YouTuber, not the showman, just Jake. A man who got knocked out twice in a year by living legends and still had the audacity to promise a return. And that's when something shifted. People stopped laughing at Jake Paul and started looking into Jake Paul, trying to understand what drives someone to keep stepping into nightmares. Because no matter how loud the criticism gets, or how brutal the losses look, you can't fake heart. In that single moment, in those 5 words, "I always get up," Jake Paul stopped being a meme and became a metaphor for madness, for belief, for the kind of reckless courage that turns ordinary people into legends or ghosts. And that's when people started to see Jake differently. Yeah, he lost. Yeah, he got knocked out cold. But who else has ever stepped into the ring with Iron Mike Tyson and Gervonta Tank Davis in the same year and actually survived both? The answer is nobody. Not a single active boxer can claim that. Even the old school purists, the same ones who mocked Jake's first fights, had to pause. They didn't like him, but they respected what he did. Because whether you love him or hate him, it takes something unteachable to walk into fire twice and come out standing. The man took 2 of the hardest hitters alive and still had the guts to look into a camera afterward and say, "I'll be back." So when people ask what Jake Paul's legacy is after Miami, it's complicated. Some say he exposed himself. Others say he exposed boxing. Proved that even outsiders could shake up a century-old fortress built on gatekeeping and ego. Either way, his story became something bigger than wins or losses. Because the truth is, Jake didn't just fight boxers. He fought narratives. He fought doubt. He fought the line between spectacle and sport and blurred it so completely that no one can tell where one ends and the other begins. He became a mirror reflecting boxing's evolution, the uncomfortable, chaotic truth that in 2025, fame, courage, and insanity might just share the same gloves. As for Tank, that night he became myth. He didn't just win, he conquered. He reminded everyone why boxing, at its core, is equal parts art and annihilation. His left hand became a ghost story. Every fighter watching from home felt that familiar chill, that unspoken question, would I survive that punch? The slow-motion replay of the knockout became an instant classic. Jake's guard dropping for a split second, Tank's body twisting like a loaded spring, and then silence. You could almost hear the world gasp as Jake's body hit the mat. It wasn't just another knockout. It was a signature, a reminder that Tank doesn't just end fights. He writes history with every punch. By the next morning, every sports network was looping the clip like gospel. ESPN analysts called it a masterclass in timing. Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit were on fire. The memes, the debates, the disbelief, it was chaos. And right in the middle of it all, Jake tweeted from his hospital bed, "Respect to Tank, I'll see you again soon." The internet went silent for a moment. No excuses, no ego, just respect. It was pure, simple defiance, the kind that makes legends, not influencers. Because love him or hate him, you can't deny one thing: Jake Paul doesn't quit. And that's how the wildest year in combat sports closed its blood-soaked chapter. Jake Paul stood toe-to-toe with 2 monsters, Iron Mike and Tank Davis, and though both sent him crashing to the canvas, neither could crush his will. He lost the fights, sure, but he won something rarer: credibility. So maybe it's not lunacy, maybe it's legacy. Because when the gloves are off and the lights fade, what's left isn't just the wins, the money, or the noise. What's left is that question echoing through every locker room, every gym, every mind brave enough to dream too big. Would you have the guts to do what Jake Paul did? Because at the end of it all, one thing's crystal clear. Jake Paul didn't just step into the ring, he stepped into history.